Emmy-nominated country artist Tyler Childers presents Snipe Hunt, performing at KC Center July 15th with special guest Wednesday. Get tickets now at HighVTix.com.
Chad Leisktow, Scott Dochterman, the two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. GameDay Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners. Best enjoyed with an Easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, and Iowans everywhere. The Big Ten is going for a third straight national championship on Monday. Oregon has a prominent new backup quarterback. And Portal Kirk is going wild this month. Welcome to a live edition of Legends and Listeners. It's been a while since we've been live from the Channel Seed Studios on Iowa Everywhere. Brought to you as always by our wonderful friends at GameDay Men's Health. I am Chad Leisktow of the Des Moines Register. We are live, Scott Dochterman of the Athletic, on this Thursday morning. Will we get some live Dochterman rants today?
I hope not.
Come on.
You know, but as I've known over the years, it's not hard to provoke me or poke me and nudge me in that direction. So I'm hopeful that I can keep a straight and narrow focus this morning and talk about the tasks at hand.
I'm going to try to provoke. That's my job. That's my job over the next hour. I've just assigned myself that job. No, great to have you here. I know you're headed to the national championship game soon, right, Scotty?
Yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I'm leaving Friday morning to head down to Miami. I'm doing media day on Saturday and looking forward to it. I mean, this will be the fifth Indiana game I've covered this year. So
wow.
I covered Illinois over in Bloomington, Iowa, and Iowa City, Big Ten Championship, the Rose Bowl, and now the National Championship. Who would have guessed 2 years ago, Chad, that I'd be covering any games involving Indiana except for maybe one in my own backyard?
Wow, that's pretty cool. We're going to preview Indiana, Miami here in just a little bit. Most of the show, Scott, will be football related. However, the fresh news, I guess you could say, to this show, it's been a while. We haven't even discussed Cohen Entringer yet. That's how long ago our last show was, last Monday. But let's talk some Iowa hoops because the Hawkeyes go down 79-72 at Purdue last night. I know your mind is laser focused on football right now, Scotty, but the Hawkeyes have lost 3 in a row now, have dropped to 2-4 in Big Ten play. Last week, Iowa lost outright twice as a favorite. So what's the level of concern right now? And I know it's Mackey Arena. I know it's Purdue, but still, you're up 9 in the second half. You lose by 7. What's the level of concern right now for Iowa men's basketball?
For me, I think, Chad, I'm concerned, and I think it's just now to the point where they need to stop it. They need to stop the bleeding. Minnesota was a bad loss. I know it was on the road at the barn, and of course, Wisconsin had an incredible three-pointer that countered their three-pointer and this was at the buzzer to win there. I think Nico Medved is doing a nice job, but you don't want to lose that game. And then I thought that they were, from the get-go against Illinois, we were there. Being down 20-5 right away against Illinois was really terrible. It was brutal. And then they clawed their way back, but they weren't the better team on the floor. I thought last night against Purdue, that was not a game anybody expected them to win. Yet they were right there for a lot of the game. They were, as you said, they hit a couple big shots. They're up 9, feeling good about themselves, and then let it all slip away, Chad. And here's my quick take, and then I want to flip it to you because you're watching this much more closely than I am. And that is, I think they are really struggling on offense. I think if Bennett Sturts is the guy, and I think they can sometimes, if they pass enough, they can find the open shot. But to have somebody who can actually generate their own shot, especially at the mid-range, I think they're really struggling there. And it just seems like they're a work in progress. Chad, tell me I'm wrong, or what do you think?
Well, no, you're not wrong, because you're right. They don't have that second shot creator. When the shot clock runs down, it's going to be Sturts, and he's having to force a lot of stuff. And I know some fans are getting on him for forcing some shots, but heck, at some point, that's what he's got to do. Last night, I thought the problem was not getting the defensive stops. I mean, Purdue shot 73% in the second half, and a lot of those three-pointer looks, folks, were wide open. And I know that McCollum came here with a reputation for playing really good defense. I know Purdue has an extremely good reputation for efficient offense. So, you got to tip your cap to the Boilers for sure. But all Iowa needed last night was to get some stops, and they just could not get stops. I mean, Purdue just kept scoring and scoring and scoring. They scored 48 in the second half, and there wasn't like a slew of free throws. It was just constant buckets. And Iowa, played, last night they hit some threes. They hit enough threes on the road to win the game last night. To me, there was defense. Again, a big free throw disparity on the road. McCollum now 0 for 4 on the road, and all of them have been heavy free throw disparities. I know Iowa fans are upset about some of the calls. I totally agree that Braden Smith got a better whistle than Bennett Sturts. There's no question about that. I mean, there's one point where he literally slide tackled Bennett Sturts out of bounds, and the ball was whistled out of bounds off Sturts. And then twice Smith drove to the hoop, and if he got a brush of contact at most, it was at most. And they gave him 3-point plays, and that really kind of seemed to turn the tide. Obviously, I saw our friend Chris Hassel tweeted the clip of Cooper Koch just basically running to the sideline and boxing out a Purdue guy and getting called for an offensive foul when the ball was off Purdue. And it was 62-61 at that point. So, yeah, there were some whistles in there for sure. But that's a part that Iowa has yet to adjust to. I think it's a lot tougher on the road than maybe they expected. And now they're 2-4 in the Big Ten. And now they go to Indiana on Saturday. So, to me, this is a kind of a crucial game for the Hawkeyes to pick off. They have no quad one wins at this point. The net still loves them. Ken Palm still loves them. So in that sense, nothing is lost, but you got to start winning these games if you want to have confidence to make any type of run in the postseason if you can get there.
This is a really important game coming up this weekend. I mean, I think for both teams, no question about it. I mean, I think Indiana has been struggling too. New coach Darren DeVries, a guy that we talked about a lot in the, last year, and they're 3-3. Iowa's 2-4. I mean, this is a real pivotal game for both teams and how they want to view their season. Iowa needs to stop, the bleeding on this, but if there's one player that I've been disappointed with all year, Chad, it's Alvaro Figueres. And I really expected a lot more from him, and he's coming off the bench, but he's not really doing much. Sometimes he'll get some good rebounds, but I really thought that he would be that pick and pop four type player, maybe a Dirk Nowitzki type, at the Big Ten level after what he was able to do at Robert Morris. And I've been, kind of increasingly disappointed there. And this isn't something that maybe I would have normally said in the past like this, but when you are, you're compensated significantly to come to Iowa and you're playing less than 14 minutes on the road, you need to be in there and you need to have a real heavy contribution. And, to get 1 rebound, 4 points, 2 turnovers. I mean, that's really tough. And I think that they need something more. I think the Drake players have come in and played really hard and really well, but we also know that by and large, they're somewhat limited. They're role players,
ceilings,
except for Sturts. Yeah. That they're maxing out on what they can get. I think Combs has been great for Iowa, better than I expected, and I think Cooper Koch has been really good for, a redshirt freshman. I did not expect that kind of a performance from him thus far. Tate Sage has come in off the bench, and, Tavion Banks and Cam, Banyau. I mean, there's times when I'm with Banyau and don't handle the ball as much. I don't think he's as proficient I mean, he's scoring, but it's not his forte where he's getting the ball sometimes. But I think Fulgaris has to be better, period. I mean, or otherwise this team's going to continue to languish, and this is a really tough league. You could go 8-12 and still be a good team. And until he takes that step forward and becomes that player that joins Bennett Sturts as true weapons, then this team's just going to kind of float in Mediocriville.
That's a good read, and obviously Ben McCollum has the, he gets asked about Fulgaris all the time. He's very inconsistent in practices, etc. So, and that's part of the reason he brings him off the bench. He doesn't know what he's going to get. And then, of course, the one game he started because Tavion Banks was sick, Iowa gets in a 21-5 hole. I'm not blaming that on Fulgaris necessarily, but there's a reason Tavion Banks starts. Tavion Banks. I'm with you. I think there's a ceiling with these Drake guys. Even with Sturts, there is a ceiling, and I think Fulgaris is the key. And I know this is like preaching to the choir because everybody's got the same opinion, but Brendan Haasen came in against Minnesota and gave him a spark in the last 7 minutes of that game, and he hasn't played since. He has not played 1 minute since. I don't like that, especially because he's such a good teammate. And he gives you some offense. He gives you a threat of offense. He's getting better on defense. Obviously they know more behind the scenes on that, but on the surface, it just seems like, give the guy a few minutes. And I'm also of the opinion, I know we've got a lot of opinions when there's losses, that Sturts does need more rest. The Big Ten is just more grueling than the Missouri Valley Conference, and he can rest on defense a little more in the Missouri Valley. He can rest on offense a little more in the Missouri Valley, but on offense in the Big Ten, he has to work to get any open looks. And Brad Underwood said it the other day at Carver, Scott. You were there too. Our plan was to make him work on the other side of the floor. They want to make him work, and they have. I mean, that's part of the game plan. These Big Ten coaches are super smart, and they know if they wear him down, he's going to reach and commit dumb fouls. And now he's been in foul trouble 4 straight games. So I would say the checklist is get Fulgaris going, easier said than done. Play Haasen a little more. Rest Sturts a little more. Your guys have played decent without Sturts. Like, it's not like he has to be out there every single minute. Now, they did need him last night. Smart move to bring him back with 2. It paid off. Had him in the lead. But anyway, little checklist for Ben McCollum as he goes to play at Assembly Hall on Saturday. Then the schedule does lighten up just a bit. Quite a bit, actually. So Iowa has a chance to go on a run. But they need a quad 1 win, and I think Saturday is a good chance to do it.
Yeah, and it has to happen soon because there has been some momentum with this program. And I know I witnessed it. I've only been at 2 games, been, kind of doing other things. And I went to the game against Illinois, and I felt a different vibe there. I like the atmosphere a lot more. I like what Iowa Athletics is doing around the game more. I think it feels more like let's keep the energy high rather than let's get to the under whatever media timeout and put a smile on your face. And just let the whole air go out of the arena. Or if the other you crush the other team with an 8-0 run, they call a timeout, and then it's like, hi guys, let's do this, and so I think that, but you also test fans when you go and you start losing these games, and it's hard to continue that momentum. I still like this team. I think it's a good team. I don't think it's, it needs those pieces, as you said, because I haven't been around the team enough to know. And I asked McCollum on Sunday, and I said, Brendan Haasen, was that a coach's decision? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Urick, the coach's decision? Yeah. I hope I pronounced his name right. Urick. Okay, I'm sorry. And, and you're going to get some big players. Sometimes you needed that. But, Haasen, again, was a free agent pickup, was a guy who was a shooter, and maybe he doesn't quite check every box, but you could use that, especially when you're on the road down a little bit. Yes, your defense isn't playing well, as you said. In the second half, they gave up 72.7% from the floor, and then they're fouling a lot. And Purdue was 19-22 from the floor in the second half.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. From the free throw line, and then you're going to need some shooters, and he can shoot. So I think, but I also know, and on the flip side, Chad, the other day, listening to him talk after the game, I was blown away by his basketball acumen. Ben McCollum, unbelievable guy, knows the game. The list. And I've heard a million coaches say a lot of great things that are way beyond what I could really, handle as far as a novice in the sport, covering the sport. But listening to the way he described and executed why this didn't work, I was really taken aback by just what he is. And it's just, and this is his first year at Iowa. This is his first year in the Big Ten in an elite conference against the number 5 team in the country on the road at a sold out arena, which finally had its students back. So it's going to be a raucous environment. It's going to be tough. Nobody expected them to win at Mackey, but when it's there, you got to take advantage of it. And I think that there's some things that we obviously can critique, and we should.
Sure. And it's not like it's early anymore. It's 17 games in. I mean, there's
exactly.
17 out of 31. So it's time to get moving. And I think they got to win Saturday at Bloomington. Otherwise, they drop to 2-5 in the Big Ten. Then every single game is packed with pressure. And you lose a quad 1 opportunity. You've lost all these quad 1 opportunities. I mean, Illinois would have been a really good one. Anyway, folks, Game Day Men's Health is super, super busy these days. The last 2 Wednesdays I've been in there, it's been hopping. I didn't really advertise this, but I turned 52 last week. Got a T-shot on my birthday. How about that? Testosterone replacement therapy can truly help you feel like you are in your 20s again, even at my old age of 52. Exercising every day. I'm feeling great. And it's not just about the fitness. It's about your mood. It's about your clear-headedness. When your levels are in balance, your life is in balance. Get hooked up with Game Day Men's Health for a private, no obligation, free consultation at GameDayMen'sHealth.com, or you can stop by one of their locations, West Des Moines, where I go. It's getting tighter and tighter in there. They're talking about maybe expanding or finding a new location because it's so busy from all the business that Legends and Listeners is driving. Ankeny or North Liberty. And also in Naperville, Illinois, from our friends at Game Day Men's Health. Scott, I wonder how healthy Indiana's feeling going down to Miami. Their football program sure looks like it's been stocking up in the health department. They look great right now.
Yeah, Chad. I mean, they have been going to Game Day Men's Health in Naperville, Illinois, it looks like, and I don't blame them. I mean, they seem to be, they got their tee shots all over the place in the way they're playing, especially against Oregon and Alabama in the last 2 rounds. And when I'm writing this story today, and it's how do they compare with the recent very, very good to great Big Ten teams that have won national titles. Now they haven't won the national title yet, and they're playing in Miami against Miami, a team that's got a great defense and a physical line of scrimmage. So things can be, we could be surprised. But when you look at the way they've been able to, they are elite in every area. I mean, except for punting. They are as good as, they're as good as defending the run as they are running the football. Their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner, has 8 touchdowns in the last 2 games and 5 incompletions. And some of the throws he was making against Oregon, back shoulder, receiver was mugged, on the perimeter and still catching the ball. Elijah Surratt is tremendous. There's just so much about this team that's at such a high level. I mean, they are second in the country in scoring per game at 42.6, and they're second in the country in scoring defense at 11.1. I mean, that kind of 31.5 point difference in scoring. And you look at the teams that they've played. Yes, they had a little streak at the beginning of the season in non-conference play, and then at the end of the season in Big Ten play. But when you're still putting up 38-3 and 56-22 against really good teams in the postseason, this team is rolling. And and I don't know. I've kind of gotten out of the whoa, this is Indiana mode because I've seen them so many times. But sometimes you do got to take that step back and go, holy cow, this was the losingest program in college football history until mid-November when they didn't lose and Northwestern did. And to see them at this point is just, to be this good in so many different areas is really remarkable. Yeah,
I think they finally sold the rest of the country. I feel like you were on them early, Scott. We were on them pretty early in the season. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, I had them beating Oregon. They did. In the first time, and they've been a machine. Now they're favored heavily in the national title game in what's basically a road game. So, I don't know. Do they? What do you think? Do they finish the job? And then where do they rank? Like, I mean, I'm hearing 2019 LSU comparisons. Certainly one of the top teams of our era was 2002 Miami. I think 37 NFL draft picks in that, on that team. You know, it has to be right up there. This will be the first team. This will be the first team ever to go 16-0. Obviously, if they could do it. LSU in 19 went 15-0. But what do you think? I mean, where does this team rank historically if they can get it done?
I think you look at LSU recently is probably the most dominant team. And I hate saying throwing out COVID year because Alabama was fantastic that year. They were great. And I think they would have, had that not been a COVID year, they would have been up there too. But I tried to compare them against the other Big Ten teams over the last little over 30 years that have been really strong. And, you know, because this could be the third straight Big Ten champion here. They have a much stronger resume than Ohio State did last year. Michigan had a better defense. Michigan's, even though Indiana's defense is really good, and Michigan was a little different, but their offense is significantly better. I mean, would you rather have Fernando Mendoza or JJ McCarthy at quarterback?
Right.
You know, their running backs are just as good, if not better. So then you start going, okay, who are some of the other better Big Ten teams then? In 2014, Ohio State, elite on offense, incredible talent. They weren't that good on defense. They allowed 22 points a game. They allowed almost 350 yards a game. Okay, then let's back it up to 2006 Ohio State that lost the championship to Florida. Then you can't always base the numbers when you're going back 2 decades because it was a different style of play, but they weren't as dominant, I don't think, as their scoring differential was 21.8 and Indiana's was 31.5. And then you look at 2002 Ohio State, which, I don't even think it was the best team in the Big Ten. Now, it won the national title and it was undefeated, so you give them their respect. But, offensively, I mean, they averaged 365 yards a game and defensively 320. So you're talking about a 33.6 yard differential or roughly or something like that. And then I went back to the 90s. And this is where I think that they may have some battles, and that's 97 Michigan and 94 Penn State. 97 Michigan won all but one of the national titles, and was but it was really, really dominant, especially on defense, pretty good on offense. And then 94 Penn State.
That's the one I remember as a kid.
Yeah,
college student.
College.
Yeah, but still, that's the team. The Kerry Collins, Kajana Carter. That was that team, right? Yeah, they were just mowing people down. 47 points a game. Ooh.
Here's some of the teams that some of the games that they won. They played a non-conference game with USC and won 38-14. They beat Michigan, who was number 5, 31-24, and that was their closest game in Big Ten. They beat Iowa 63-21 that year. They beat Ohio State 63-14. And then in the Rose Bowl, they had to go to the Rose Bowl. They beat Oregon 38-20. This was, I think it was maybe the best offense in Big Ten history, and defensively, they averaged 7.64 yards per play on offense. Wow. In that era, and and I know Nebraska fans, they won the title that year officially, but I would have liked Penn State in that game personally. The next year, Nebraska 95 was really, really good, but 94 I would have liked Penn State to win that game. So I think Indiana's in all that ballpark for all of those teams. I think Indiana is as good as any of them, because even that Penn State team wasn't that great on defense, not like this Indiana team. I don't think Indiana, outside of offensively, they're really, really good too, but I don't know. I think Indiana fits in there, and that's just incredible to think about.
Yeah, it is. 8.5 point favorites on Monday night. At this point, I'm going to say I like them to cover. I mean, that's a lot of points, but I like them to get it done just because, I don't know, Miami's I've been pretty impressed with them. I mean, obviously what they did against Ohio State can't be ignored. But at the same time, that defense wasn't they gave up quite a bit against Ole Miss as well. And so if they give up that to Ole Miss, they're probably going to give about that to Indiana at least. So I'm thinking it's probably more like maybe like a 31-17 type final, something like that would be kind of where I would ballpark this one personally. I think I'm going to take Indiana to cover in this one. You know, it'd be fun. It was a good game, but you know, it's be a pretty incredible story for you to write Monday night, Scott, if this comes to fruition.
Yeah, I think I've got them 34-16.
Okay, so we're in the same ballpark. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's going to be 20-16 early in the fourth quarter and they score 2 touchdowns to pull it away, or if it's going to be 34-10 and Miami tries to go for 2 late in the game, and it's just a dominant performance. I think it could go either way. Miami does have some positives. I mean, they lead the nation in sacks, and Indiana has given up some pressure. And I expect that to be probably part of their game plan is to really attack, because it has worked in the games that have been close. Iowa being right at the forefront, the more pressure you put on Fernando Mendoza, the better your chances are of disrupting the passing attack, because you have to do that because he is so accurate and strong armed, and they've got 4 high level receivers plus a really good tight end. You've got to be able to do that. And they've got some dudes up front. Let's not kid ourselves. Miami has dudes. But as you mentioned with the Ole Miss game, they had 41 minutes of time of possession against the Rebels.
Right.
And they barely won. And it really, there's a PI in the end zone that didn't get called. And that to me was, it's like, how do you dominate that much the entire game and be that close? And, and the one hidden factor, and, we've seen it with Iowa all these years, but certainly Indiana is one of the best teams when it comes to penalties. They have 27 yards of penalties per game. Miami has 55. So, I mean, those little details really are magnified in these games. It's like it's 3rd and 5, you complete a 7-yard pass, but, then you have, 5 men lined up in the backfield, or, you hold, or, just things that Miami has done that's really negated these games or extended drives for the opponent. And I could see that happening. Plus their run defense has been good under Mark Fletcher, but Indiana's run defense is elite. And they've been better in the playoffs. And Ohio State, I don't know. I don't know if you watched that game after you got done writing.
I was in my room. I did see the second half. I saw the pick 6. I was in my room right about when the pick 6 happened from the game. And it was just unimpressive from Ohio State. Just didn't seem like Ohio State to me.
They looked like they were going through the motions. It looked like they were playing Michigan, not Miami from years past.
Right.
Just like, what are you guys doing? Yeah. Very, clenched up, and then the pick 6, then they looked like they were pressured. And I was like, you dudes, you've got the best combination of wide receivers in the country in Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. So let them rolled out. Julian Sayin wasn't playing very good. I mean, it was just a really tight performance. I was really surprised by them, and and then they've got a lot of soul searching to do in the future there. But overall, Chad, I think it's the type of game where, if it's Monday night and it's cold out, and and it will be in the Midwest, and certainly will be in Iowa, that it's the type of game where I think you'd want to go and hang out at a place like Big Grove and watch this game. And I think there's the patios. You're not going to want to go on the patio this time, but the vibe is still really awesome inside at all of the locations: Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Des Moines, and of course the OG in Solon. And the food is great there. They have fantastic beers, as we know. The Easy Eddie is as good as it gets in the state of Iowa and the Midwest, and nothing will go down better watching a national championship game than drinking an Easy Eddie. Or you can think back to the good old days in 1939 with the Iowa's Ironmen, and pick up a 1939 Amber Ale. I love those. Citrus Surfer, their neighborhood beer, all the different variations of their IPAs. So head on out on Monday night to check out the Hoosiers and Hurricanes clash, and head out to Big Grove at one of your 4 locations in the state of Iowa.
And you can celebrate the end of portal season, or at least the end of entry. The transfer portal closes tomorrow, Scott. This gives us a chance to talk about some of the bigger happenings, especially as it relates to Iowa football. Pretty busy season for the Hawkeyes, but real quick, I wanted to get your thoughts on Dylan Raiola going to be the backup quarterback at Oregon. Kind of an interesting development. I wonder if he knew Dante Moore was going to be coming back. I mean, I thought the sense was Moore was going to come back. So it's a real interesting move. Did he not get the interest he wanted? Or is Oregon just good to just pay up for, to have that backup option, which obviously he's a very talented young man.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. He knew what he was getting into.
Sure.
Because, everybody knew Dante Moore's decision was hinging. He knew that he might have to just go there, basically be a redshirt. But Dante Moore did the same thing a couple years ago. He was a true freshman starter at UCLA, had a really up and down freshman year. He's a 5-star from Detroit, and then he decided to go and redshirt a year under Dylan Gabriel. I'm sorry, at Oregon, and Dylan Gabriel was the Big Ten Player of the Year, and led him to a number 1 overall ranking, and he stayed out. And then this year he walked in and he was really good. Dylan Raiola has that same opportunity now to go there and kind of back up and learn this offense. It is an unusual move, though, because I think 2 years as a starter at Nebraska, you kind of expected him to go, if he was going to go anywhere, he was going to go start. And now he's going to go back up. So wouldn't be that my move of choice if I was him. But then again, he wasn't considered one of the 7 or 8 or 10 best quarterbacks in the portal either. I mean, there were a lot of other guys that people wanted, and if his market was higher, then you'd see, say, Lane Kiffin at LSU going after him, or even Texas Tech, but they went after Brandon Sorsby, and Indiana, they went after Josh Hoover from TCU. All these other schools that could have paid up for somebody like that chose not to. So, Nebraska might be better off. I mean, frankly, because I think he was a little limited. He's a great arm, no question about that. But I don't know that he was the two-way player that they got in Anthony Colandrea, from UNLV. He's got almost 3,500 passing yards, 650 rushing, 10 touchdowns on the ground, 23 through the air. He's a really good player for them. So I think Nebraska might have been better off the way what they ended up doing. But with Raiola going and being a backup is certainly a different scenario than I think most of us expected.
Well, and don't forget, as our producer Aiden pointed out, he did break his leg, so it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to, if he has that mindset, is to maybe approach it as a redshirt year. He's got a redshirt available, and if he develops like they want him to at Oregon and gets to know that offense, I mean, he could have 2 really high-paid years as Oregon's quarterback, potentially. And the Hawkeyes play out there in 2027, Scott. We have not had a chance to talk about Cohen Entringer's departure from the University of Iowa. That's probably the biggest portal exit. Well, certainly the biggest portal exit for the Hawkeyes. He lands at Louisville. It was a strange story because he was just so coy about his plans way back in November. Mm-hmm. And he walked on senior day, came to the bowl game, was talking about next year at Iowa, but never really said he was coming back. And, he gave the sense that he was coming back to Iowa. I would say that. I would agree with that. I didn't explicitly say he was coming back. But but then he hops in the portal a little late, and it did catch some coaches off guard, I think. He had told them he was coming back, is what I was told. So it's very odd. To end up at Louisville, too, you think about, Dylan Tieneman, for example, going out to Oregon and supposedly getting high 6 figures out there. Maybe he thought he was going to get that and didn't. I don't know. What do you make of kind of that departure, and anything you can share on that?
Yeah, I'm not privy to all of the facts here. I've heard rumors of different things, and so I'd rather not really go into too much detail. But I mean, I think it's I don't know how much money played into it. You've got to always consider that as part of something. When somebody leaves, that's been a captain, a starter, a guy who's on a path that probably could take him to the NFL next year, and for him to leave, and it was a kind of a strange development because he was really coy, as he walked on senior day, and then it was like, well, no, I'm not. And I remember watching some of the interviews you guys had with him in Florida, and it was just something off, like there was something there that you just didn't know what was going to happen. And so for him to leave and go to Louisville, I don't know how much he's getting paid there. Louisville, won 9 games this year, and Jeff Brom's the head coach, and they play in a competitive conference, and who knows? I mean, they thought that he could be a guy that stabilizes their secondary, and he very well could, and push them over the top, and be an elite player, an all ACC caliber player. I think he is. So, and in today's world, you cannot discount how much money people get in the portal. That is a huge factor. So, I don't know what Iowa was offering, and I don't know what Louisville was offering, but I think money was probably at least was what pushed him to Louisville, I would say.
Yeah, it just the kind of the behavior, I would say, just sort of indicated a guy that was kind of knew he might be leaving, but just didn't want to like say it or even tell the coaches. Maybe, I mean, just they're young kids, and I don't know if he had anything necessarily lined up, but I think maybe as I said to the text group last week, like let's also be honest about it. It's a big loss, but he was also the 4th best defensive back out of 5 last year for the Hawkeyes. I mean, I would put Lutmer was the defensive MVP, also plays safety / cash. TJ Hall probably would be 2nd, Xavier Wampa 3rd. To me, Entringer's production was lacking. No interceptions. The only fumble recovery he had was the Iowa State pump muff, which was debatable if it was even a muff. It wasn't like he created it. And then probably Deshaun Lee would be 5th. So, it's certainly a big loss. A captain, you don't want to see that happen. But at the same time, I don't see him, Scott, as a player that Iowa was going to go, hey, here's $700,000 to stay or whatever. Like, it's not like when you're talking about, you're not talking about the starting quarterback in this case. And really good player, would love to have him, but if he's going to walk over, again, we're speculating here. We're speculating a bit. Okay, give us a little license. Then you kind of understand it from Iowa's perspective too, because they've been pretty active in the portal and they've been using their money. They've been using their dollars.
Yeah, they've definitely taken a Moneyball approach. I mean, they've spent to their cap, but they've done a nice job there. But I would say that you've got to adhere to the positions. Now, if you have Bob Sanders at safety or Zach Lutmer at safety, then you adapt. And Tyler Barnes is one of the best in the biz at this. I mean, so he knows everything. And I'm not saying he's perfect, because all GMs in any sport are going to have their little mistakes, but I'm not saying this is a mistake, because in a perfect world, yes, you would love to have him, a 2nd-year starter, a guy who's been a valuable contributor before that, who's made a lot of effort plays that I think, deserve a lot of respect. He's a stand-up young man. I think we all like him. But his production on the field is good, but it's like replaceable. It's not Cooper DeJean, it's not Jack Campbell, it's not AJ Epineza, where you're just like, man, they're going to really drop off here. It's like, right. I mean, like, I think Logan Jones is more of a fear for me for Iowa replacing, or Mark Gronowski is more of a fear replacing that production than it is, it's like next guy up. And they've got a lot of next guys up in the portal to potentially fill that position.
Exactly. Well, Scott, it is 10:45, I think, but it's 5:00 somewhere. And with Athletic Brewing, it can always be 5:00. Athletic Brewing Company is thrilled to be backing legends and listeners, and as a non-drinker, I'm super happy they're with us as well. It's a perfect fit. Athletic Brewing not affiliated with Scott Dochterman or the New York Times, is America's largest dedicated non-alcoholic brewer. Today's choice, while you were talking, Scott, I was pouring an Upside Dawn. It's a classic craft golden style ale, refreshing, clean, balanced, and light-bodied, with subtle earthy and spicy notes, along with some citrus aromas. Maybe you're going with a dry January this month. This is a great alternative to the hard stuff. Skip the resolutions and start now. Athletic Brewing is indeed fit for all times, including all times a day, all times a year. Visit their wide variety of products at athleticbrewing.com. We're really thankful that they're with us, and we've gotten now 40-ish minutes into the show, Scott, and Hawkeye's got 3 safety. I mean, where do you want to start with this portal class? I mean, there's 11 guys in it as of right now. I believe a punter is on the way, so that'll be a 12th. Not announced yet, so they're going to have they're bringing in a lot of guys. I don't remember Iowa being, and I wrote a whole column about this, Scott. Let's talk about the approach first, because you said Moneyball. I love that word. I feel like it's Signetti ball because you're going after lower level guys that are very productive. You think about an Elijah Surratt. I know he was at JMU, but where was he before that? It was some small.
St. Francis.
Yeah, see what I mean? And those are the guys that I was identifying. And I like it because they have a lot of years left. They've made their mistakes in the portal. Some of the Power 5 to Power 5 transfers, let's be honest, haven't worked out. Let's talk about Caleb Brown, for example. It just sometimes there's a reason they're available, you know. These are guys that are hungry. Iowa has always liked those chip on their shoulder guys, and I think they've learned now, Scott, for the most part. Now Gronowski, started slow. But the 1-year guys, I mean, the Bryce Georges, the Shaheed Barroses, the Sam Phillipses that I put in my article, like, yeah, you'd love to have them another year. Like, I think they just, at Iowa, you just need a little longer, and they've gotten 11 guys with 26 combined years of eligibility, Scott. Only one of them has 1 year left.
That's perfect. That's exactly what you want, because you look at even a guy like Jonah Pace, you know, which was plug and play. I thought he got better as the season went on. Mark Gronowski certainly did, you know, from about mid-October, really after he came back from his injury, and you'd like to have seen him healthy, what he would have been like, you know, without his knee injury. But it takes time. And then, you know, and it's important to be able to plug places if you have a clear deficit, like getting Bryce Stevenson from Holy Cross. He's a 1-year guy. He's the only 1-year guy that they've got, but sometimes you just need that, you know, until your other guys are finished baking in the oven. But I think when you look at the other 10 guys, all of them have multi-years. All of them have proven themselves in some way, shape, or form. 6 of the players have All-American accolades. 3 of them as actual All-Americans and 3 of them as freshman All-Americans. So they've performed at a high level at their institutions. And I think if we stick to defensive back, you've got a lot of competition there, because you got Deshaun Lee, who's returning, you know, again. And then you also have Zach Lutmer, who's returning. But the rest of the positions are all up for grabs. You know, not only the holdovers like Rashad Godfrey or Jalen Watson, who've played, or you know, I'm anxious to see what Ty Hudkins can do. You know, he didn't play all year. I think he was hurt. But he came from Purdue last year, and they looked at him before. But then you throw on these 3 other guys, you know, Anthony Hawkins, Tyler Brown, and Xavier Stiles, all performed really well. And they all have multiple years. And, you know, Anthony Hawkins was a first team All-American freshman safety at Villanova, you know, 2 interceptions, 4 tackles for loss, 57 tackles. He's got 3 years left, and he's, you know, long, you know, 6'3", 170. And I look at him, I'm like, is he going to be like Xavier Wampa? Or if he's long and athletic, can you move him outside? And that's even a bigger deal. So, you know, with the secondary, I like the infusion. I think that, and Jacob Wallace, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him, because there's a lot of thought that he could be an elite level player. And one other thought is, just this week, the coaches have voted that at AFCA to shift the 4-game rule for red shirts to 9. and it has to be approved. But if that's the case, then basically, you have 5 to play 5. So you won't even have to, you can play everybody and not even worry about it.
Yeah, Tyler Brown is probably the most likely to plug and play. He was a 14-game starter for a playoff team in James Madison. A little smaller in stature, but it had big production. So, again, that's a guy that's going to be hungry to prove himself at the next level. They like those guys. They get all these guys in January. Also, Scott, you think about Bryce George, he came in the summer. Brendan Sullivan, even a couple of years ago, like he came in the summer. Like that, you're getting these guys early on too, that where it helps your development. I think let's stick on the defensive side of the ball quickly here, Scott, because I really like what they did at defensive end with Kamari Brown out of Elon. Must have had a connection with Billy Taylor over there. 6'3", 252 junior. Now this is a guy with a lot of production. His film really jumps off the page. I mean, I think we were talking in our last show about who's Iowa's top defensive end next year, and I think it might be Yosei Epinesa, but Kamari Brown looks like a guy that can plug right in. They need help off the edge for sure. Losing Herkett and Llewellyn and not a lot of proven guys behind them. You're talking about Kenny Merriweather. Yeah. Brian Allen left and is going to Vanderbilt. That was another little development in the portal. So that's a big one. They also pick up a guy from Northern Illinois, Lance Ingold. Not a lot of production there, but a long guy. And then, like you said, Bryce Stevenson at defensive tackle. I think they're still short at defensive tackle would be what I would say. I don't like what they have there just yet. Bryce Hawthorne's going to have to develop into a monster. And one of those walk-ons might have to, if they don't add anyone else, one of those walk-ons might have to, become something. Devin Kennedy's going to have to become something. So a little concerned at D tackle. I feel better at D end because of Kamari Brown.
Yeah. I wonder if, and one thing about Kelvin and the way he plays is it's interchangeable. So I look at somebody like Lance Ingold, who had limited snaps. He played both left and right side for Northern Illinois, and a sack and a half, 17 tackles. Is he a guy that they're going to cross train, maybe plug him inside and let him kind of, and I'm sure they will in the spring, let him work there and then see if he can work outside. Kamari Brown he played almost exclusively on the left side when he was at Elon, and he played 417 snaps as a 5 tech, and then he did flip over. He played 164 on the right side, but 12 sacks, second team All-American. He led his conference by 2.5 sacks, and 16 TFLs. He's a disruptor in the passing game. They haven't really had that kind of an edge rusher like that for a little while. I think that you put him on one side and probably Yosei Epinesa on the other. Maybe Merriweather works his way in. Then you've got 3 guys that you feel good about, and then you just kind of, all right, is somebody going to step into that role? Is it Joseph Anderson? Is it Drew Campbell? Is it somebody kind of fit that role, and you feel like, all right, you're okay. In the interior, as you said, I still think they need to go out and get one more. And they're at right now it looks like they're at 85 scholarship or 83 scholarships.
Okay.
And and they got a kicker, which they needed. And
Eli Ozick. Yep.
Yeah, and it's a good kicker. He's 16-18. Hit a 54-yarder. He was a second team All-American. He's a guy that has kicked, and granted, North Dakota State's indoors. But the one thing about it is, because since it's a skill, it's more transferable. It's like a guy you feel like, okay, he can plug in and play and kick, and he's going to be all right. And they played in big situations, so he's been a part of that. And on the other side, Chad, unless you have anything to add on defense, the wide receiver part of it is critical, because I thought coming back, we saw Reese Vanderzee as really emerged to me as a really solid, strong upper level wide receiver. Made some dynamic catches. I'm excited to see him with a full year and being able to be healthy. And then I also DJ Voname, who we at the FWAA put him as a first team All-American freshman. He's fantastic this year, and he really elevated. And I think with him and Addison Ostrenga, the tight end is really set. But going and getting Tony Diaz and Evan James, to go in and then compete with Dayton Howard, KJ Parker, and whoever else kind of emerges. I think that's, maybe even one of the true freshmen. I think they got a chance to really emerge and then make that and elevate that group to actually a threat and a weapon, which Iowa hasn't had since Brandon Smith and Amir Smith-Marset and Charlie Jones were there.
Well, it's to me, it's just a victory to begin with, and it's a small victory, admittedly. But you're getting these guys like interested to come to Iowa for offense. This Tony Diaz was a guy that I was told that it was their top target in the portal. 5'11", 176, incredible catch radius. This is a guy with a lot of production at Rio Grande Valley, and he's going to slot in at that Z receiver for the most part, maybe some slot, but a good complement to Vander Z, and that's what they need. They need a really effective slot like Dayton Howard. I mean, he solid blocker, all that stuff, but you need more production there. Diaz has the chance, I think, to be that guy. And now you get the thing is you get these guys in January. Like they're going to be throwing, and Gronowski didn't even get to throw to these guys until June, and so you're getting Heklinski, you're getting Brown working with these guys in January. They're going to go through all this. It's just so valuable. I think Diaz was a great pickup. The other kid from Furman, I was kind of told more of like think of him more like a Weegan type, like a guy that's really good in space, but you want to get him the ball in space. Whereas Diaz might be the guy that can go get the ball, make plays. So it's going to be fun. And it sounds like they got another kid from SMU visiting today, according to Blair Sanderson over there. But I don't have a lot of information on him other than that, but it seems like they might be adding another one yet. So I think good news, Scott. And then let's talk about the running back. What do you make of adding LJ Phillips? We buried the lead here, Scott. The leading rusher in FCS is joining the Hawkeyes. LJ Phillips from South Dakota.
Yeah, I think this was, really an impressive, in some ways surprising, but I mean, maybe they saw what we saw, which was that offensive line was so good that the skill positions kind of let them down. And I think in the running game it did too, even though they ran the ball well and there were some good plays, but there were a lot of plays that still left on the table. And they looked at again, LJ Phillips, who was, first team All-American from AFCA, and second team from AP, as a guy, almost 2,000 rushing yards. And he didn't even start the beginning of the season. And for him to score 20 total touchdowns, that was really impressive. That's a statement. That's that's a move that you make to say, we want to be the best, we want to have the best running game in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. And I think you throw him and Kamari Moulton, and then you're holdovers because you already lost guys, which you expected. Jazz Patterson went to Michigan State. That was one, and then T.J. Washington went to New Mexico State. Mm-hmm. So you're not surprised by that. But I think this way it's like we're gonna make sure our new quarterback, whoever it is, has a great running game, not just a good one, a great one. And I think he steps right in, and they could be, and people might go, well, that was at FCS. No, you take a look at some of these great rushers and where they've come from, and then what they've done at the SEC and other places. Mm-hmm. He's legit. He is a really good. I mean, he's 5'9", 225. I mean, I'm just going to use this comparison on physical ability, not yet productivity. He's like Sean Green, only a little bit quicker. Mm-hmm. So if you've got Sean Green, you've got a championship caliber running game.
Yeah, I kind of saw a little bit of Mekhi Sargent, a little bit of LaShawn Williams as well with him. But we'll see. We'll see what he turns into. I don't think he's going to come in and be like the 27 carries a game guy. I think Moulton and McNeil are going to be right there too. It's going to be a good competition for sure. and it helps. It helps. One guy on the offensive line, they did add Trent Wilson from James Madison. I know from talking to George Barnett down there at the bowl game. Felt really good. He feels good about his offensive line for next year. And, I think from the George, he didn't say this, okay, but I think from the Bryce George experience, he wanted guys that had more runway to teach the way that Iowa blocks, all that stuff. You just run out of time so quickly. And, this guy has a redshirt year available as well, and he's only a sophomore. So, he's going to be in competition at guard. He played 14 games for James Madison, so he's no slouch. Seems like a nice ad there. And then sounds like Cade Pieper likely to move to center. That was a CBS report, and actually was consistent with something I heard from somebody who listened. Somebody in power who listened to our show last time where we were talking about Pieper staying at guard. I was like, that was about the only thing I disagreed with you guys on. Like, I think Pieper's the center. So, wouldn't be, we'll see. He's got to probably prove it. Yeah. But the person I talked to said you want a dominant guy like that at center if possible. And so, heck, maybe he wins the Remington next year, Scott.
I wouldn't put it past him. I know I was on that, keep him at guard, but that's, they know more than I do. I know that. So if he does play center, that's fantastic for them. And Trent Brown was, he played 250, I think, at left guard and 150 snaps.
Yeah,
Wilson. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm getting all these guys. There's so many new guys. There's 2 Browns in there. So
I know it's like 15% of the roster.
Yeah,
is all right there. So it's a lot to soak in here. Trent Wilson, 6'4", 300.
So he played almost 400 snaps. He had a pretty decent grade. They went to the playoff. They were really good this year. I think that's a really smart pickup, and it adds competition. And when you look at what happened to them in their class of basically 2025. They lost 2 out of the 3 guys. One went to Notre Dame, flipped, and then the other one, Van Wetsinga, decided he wanted to play defense and went over to Central Michigan rather than stay at Iowa and kind of be that center. And so they've got a lot of young talent that I think there's gonna be a heavy competition, and that's gonna be exciting for George Barnett, and it's gonna be exciting for Kirk Ferentz, and so there's a lot of really good pieces there. And and maybe, I guess my idea to keep him at guard should probably be flushed. And if you're in the Iowa City area,
that's a good one.
It's probably time to, if you need a flushing, to call Ackerman Plumbing. And it's time to discover how the plumbing industry can be when you choose a customer-first, independently owned and operated business like Ackerman Plumbing. It services the Iowa City area, and we're thankful for their support here on Iowa Everywhere's Legends and Listeners. Ackerman is only in the residential plumbing business, so your calls matter and will be answered in a timely manner. And if it's for a plumbing emergency, routine service and maintenance, equipment replacement, or upgrades like tankless water heaters and water filtration systems, call Ackerman. They're a growing business. They're looking for other service techs to join their team. If that's you, reach out to Ackerman. And a shout out to the Ackerman team. I really enjoyed having them here to look over all of my stuff. Corey, Stacy, Aaron, and Nathan, and all the rest. So visit ackerman-plumbing.com for 5-star residential transfer portal plumbing services in the Iowa City region.
Well, it's a busy day on Iowa Everywhere. 4 live shows today. We're following up 2 guys, Overthinking coming up next at noon. But just wanted to ask you, Scott, before we go, did you have any good social media interactions this week?
You're trying to poke the bear. Yeah, Chad, we had, it was a lot of fun this week. Okay. I'm trying to be nice. I just think that some fans should stick to their team and their conference and avoid trying to provoke people for no reason. For what reason, I don't know. So I'm not going to mention the teams. I'm not going to get on a rant on this. But I will say, Chad, that I very much enjoyed watching a football game on personal reasons on Saturday night.
Yes.
I went through the emotional meat grinder, though. I probably yelled more in that game than up until the very final play. And then I sat there for I didn't say a word for like 5 minutes, just because I was like, did it really happen?
Right. All right. For those of you guys that don't know, Scott and I are both lifelong Chicago Bears fans. Grew up in the 80s, Super Bowl shuffle, all that. It's been a while, been 40 years since we've really had that kind of joy, probably, but or at least bordered on that. And that was when we were 11, 12. So pretty exciting. I would say this, as Bears fans, it was like I texted you guys. It was in our little thread. I was like, I got to leave this thread, guys. I got to get to bed at halftime. Right. Of course, I didn't actually tune out. Yeah. I was just sort of like protecting myself. And, of course, kept watching. They inch back. And with these Bears, you can't ever lose faith completely. And I never did, but this season's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. So
I'm trying
it's why you play, Kirk Ferentz says it all the time. That's why we play 60 minutes, and it's the Bears truly play 60 and sometimes even more than 60 to do this.
This is, I figure it's a house money year. Right now we're playing with house money. This was not what I expected. Any of the 4 teams left in the NFC, or frankly the AFC, could beat anybody or lose to anybody. So anything can happen. And I'm happy that they've been on the ride that they've been on. But I'm also, it's also fun to have a team still alive and playing in the great city of Chicago and playing the Los Angeles Rams. It's just, one downer though. I felt horrible for George Kittle, one of the best dudes I've ever covered, one of my favorite guys, and to have his Achilles shredded, just
stinks.
Horrible. I mean, it's a long injury too, and not a better guy in the league or in person than George. And so you hope for a speedy, quick, full recovery, and he can get back to being the great George Kittle that we know he is.
Absolutely. And how about Torrey Taylor for the Bears? No punts the other day. Ben Johnson just went for 4th down every single time. Yes. Every time, even in his own territory, went for it. But he did hold 3 field goals.
Caleb Williams' text to him came true on draft day. You're not going to be punting much here. So, so what a great, hopefully he doesn't punt again this week. That would be fantastic too.
Yeah. And maybe that's why Reese Dakin left. He could see the writing on the wall. Iowa just wasn't going to punt much next year with LJ Phillips and Jeremy Hecklinski. So
yeah, there you go.
Brought it full circle, folks. All right. Thanks for joining us on this live edition Thursday of Legends and Listeners. Scott Dochterman. Enjoy Miami. I'm jealous.
I will. Yeah.
Go Bears. I can say that. Hopefully we're not flushing the NFL season next week, but hopefully we're not. So good to talk to you guys. Channel Seed Studios every week here on Iowa Everywhere. Talk to you soon.